Hello, you're watching Dukascopy TV. Another month has passed and therefore it's time for another release of the Dukascopy Bank Sentiment Index. The Dukascopy Research team during March has been closely monitoring the data provided by 30 experts on what they have to say about the 6-month and 3 economic prospects for North America, Asia Pacific and Europe. Professor Santiago Carbo-Valverde from Bangor Business School in the UK is one of the academic experts who participated in the March poll, and he is here today on the line to help us understand the received results. Professor Valverde, to start off, let us have a look at the obtained data for the mood indicator. The region that has been mostly impacted in March appears to be Europe, with the 6-month sentiment plummeting to 0.28 from 0.35, the lowest level since October 2012, while the 3 economic outlook decreased to 0.46. Professor, now obviously the unprecedented Cyprus bailout conditions must have had a negative impact on the economic prospects. However, do you see any other reasons that could have affected the outlook? And do you think that the bailout could have also influenced the 3-year prospects for Europe?
Well, I think the bad news regarding the bailout for Cyprus are there, and I think they are one of the main factors explaining the outlook for Europe, because the waters were relatively calm, or have been relatively calm over the last 6-8 months after Mario Draghi's announcement about the OMT and whatever it takes. And now things have become less optimistic, I would say. And of course, there are other reasons. The European economy is weak. Not the entire economy, but the periphery is in really bad shape, is still in bad shape. And even Germany and other core countries are also suffering from lower growth or even negative growth for some quarters. So there is also a reason that there is uncertainty also in some of the major European economies. And I also think that the impact of the wrong ideas or the mistakes on the Cyprus bailout, they may last for a long time, because I mean, this is kind of it's not, or politicians have said it's not going to be a template, but of course everybody keeps it at the back of their minds. So it may affect the longer term or the long term more even than the short term, because in the prospects of a bailout in the future, everybody will think what's happened here.
If we now consider the development of the sentiment index, we see that in January the vows of the euro leaders, stating that the worst for the eurozone is in the past, proved to boost the sentiment. However, it seems that the actual negative data coming from the region did not support their views. Professor Valverde, do you believe that the sentiment is more impacted by the attempts of the euro leaders to inject confidence into the market rather than the real data?
Well, that's true. Probably expectations are affected by also political mood or political opinions, and that's fine. I mean, it's always tricky to detect that the economy is going to grow or the economy is entering a recession just by looking at the data. Sometimes you need expectation created from opinions, or to see exactly what the mood is now or what the mood is moving to. In this case, I mean, I think the political opinions were relevant because some countries had introduced reforms that is, I mean, should be bringing some good news at some point. So politicians already were sort of saying or discounting, we are going to have a better performance of the economy because we have introduced reforms. That's the case of some countries, particularly Spain or even Portugal before the Constitutional Court decision. And on top of that, we also had a better financial environment because the ECB decision to create the OMT, which was also discounted by politicians. So I think the impact of the politicians of the government has been important for this sentiment in January, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I mean, sometimes you need to sort of boost expectations that way.
Finally, if we examine the development of the business cycle, we see that each economy goes through the expansion phase, when real GDP increases, then reaches the peak, when real GDP begins to drop, continues with the recession phase, and is followed by the trough, the moment when real GDP starts to boost again. Let us consider where North America a region that has been performing relatively well, stands in the business cycle. The poll shows that 22 professors believe that North America is healing from the 5-year crisis it has been experiencing, while 25 claim the economy will continue to expand 3 years from now. Professor, what conditions do you think are necessary for the North American economy to prolong its expansion and not fall into another slowdown?
I think the U.S. economy is showing a kind of subdued growth. I mean, it's showing some growth, but still some sources of uncertainty remain. The main source of uncertainty that should be eliminated is the fiscal sequester. I think the U.S. needs to avoid any major crisis regarding its fiscal position and its fiscal balance. So it would be very, very good that the U.S. reaches a political agreement that avoids that fiscal sequester and avoids the fiscal abyss. So I think that's the main source. But also, probably the U.S. needs to enhance some of their infrastructure. I think the government could do a better job by improving and investing more in public infrastructure, which I think is needed to boost growth, and also try to improve competitiveness of the economy.
Professor Valverde, thank you for joining us today. We hope you have enjoyed the program, and in case you're interested in receiving more information on the Dukascopy Bank Sentiment Index, be sure to read the full report by going to Dukascopy.com and selecting Sentiment Index under the Market Research section. That is all for now. Goodbye.